Good Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you are having a good afternoon. Browns back on the practice field, working, getting ready for Sunday's game at home against the New York Giants. DeJuan Jones was back on the practice field. Still no definitive word on Jack Conklin or Jedrick Wills, whether they'll be able to play Sunday. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi, how he sees the Browns working through their tackle against the Giants.
Jed Wills is probably not going to play this game. So now you're down to Hudson, the left tackle, DeJuan Jones, who's got a little bit of a tweak to the knee, and Conklin. So which two of those three will play? I think all three are going to play. They'll keep Hudson at left tackle, and I'm speculating that Conklin needs to get his pitch count game over with first. He's not going to play 65 plays in his first game. And it just so happens that DeJuan Jones is dinged up too. So I could see Conklin and Jones sharing time at right tackle in this game.
With that, let's welcome in Quincy Carey, Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, that makes sense. Jedrick Wills pretty much said probably wasn't going to be able to go yesterday. Said he probably won't going to be able to play Sunday. So if you got two guys that are banged up that are going to be on snap counts, yeah, I'm not crazy about James Hudson at left tackle, but
yeah, I mean, they kind of rotate DeJuan Jones in and out already, so it wouldn't surprise me if they just replaced him or replaced the rotation with it being the Fetty, with it being Jack Conklin there. So that makes sense there. James Hudson, the real question with having James Hudson out there and rotating your tackles is how much stress is that going to put on the interior of the offensive line, because they kind of have to babysit if that's the case, right? And we've seen that stress kind of break the offensive line at points, right? The third quarter versus Jacksonville, a lot of the first half versus Dallas, we saw that interior kind of broke down a little bit. And you're playing a team that has Dexter Lawrence in the middle, right? So you worry about your ability to hold up in the interior. So it is going to be interesting how it plays out this week, but as far as like what the plan is for him, yeah, it makes sense. You want to get healthier sooner than later. Unfortunately, both these guys are coming back from, apparently serious enough injuries to hold them out for a significant portion of time. So you just got to be patient with it. The good news is that even with the rotation out there, it's not like you don't think you could beat the Giants, even if you have the same tackle play that you had last week.
All right, so this is from PFF, highest passing grades among quarterbacks through 2 weeks. Derek Carr's tops in the league, 92. Kyler Murray just under 91. Darnold, Rodgers, Justin Fields is 5th. Baker Mayfield 12th and Deshaun Watson 13th. Watson a PFF grade of 68.6, ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. So two things. How surprising! I'm surprised because the opener against Dallas was pretty bad. He was pretty good last week, but what are the next steps for Watson? And how surprised are you that his PFF grade is kind of middle of the league?
We're kind of getting back to normal football, and it's been interesting seeing like the reaction to it. But it used to be, in order to move the ball downfield and be efficient as a passing offense, you had to establish the run game to have teams be afraid of anything. And if you look at the teams that are, the quarterbacks that are high up in that passing grade, it's going to coincide with teams that are able to run the football pretty well, right? Arizona runs the football very well. Minnesota runs the football very well. If you're able to run the football at a good clip, and look, what happened this week, the Browns were able to run the football at the pretty good clip here with both Foreman and Ford, and that ended up opening things up for Deshaun Watson. The Browns are going to have to open the run game up in order to get more out of quarterback play. But when you look at next steps for Deshaun Watson, last week he played against a team that played about 50% in cover one. They don't really change up a lot of their looks defensively. This week you're going up against a team in New York that changes up their looks more so than Dallas. So you want to see and check off things that you saw in week one, right? Because we're all still nervous about what we saw in week one. You want to go through a list and check off things that could have been the problem in week one from a football standpoint, right? Was he just not there? Is he cooked? Is he physically incapable? I think the Jacksonville game gave you good insurance that physically he's fine. He's capable. He can drive the ball fine. He can run. He can move, do all the athletic, agile stuff fine. Like he's healthy. So you feel that way after the Jacksonville game. It's one thing you can clear out the way. The next thing you want to clear off the list is, hey, was it these looks that he's going to see more in the modern NFL? These cover 4, these cover 3, these cover 2 looks that you're going to see a lot more of in the NFL because of how defenses play now. Is he able to process those quickly? Because that's not something he had to do a ton versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's going to be something that you want to see in this Giants game, right? Is he able to process quick, or is he going to be hesitant like he was against Dallas because he's getting confused at the line of scrimmage? Or was the bad game against Dallas just a bad game and those things aren't going to be replicated again? So that's my next step for Deshaun. Want to see him be able to do the same thing he did against Jacksonville, but have that same, if not better, efficiency versus a defense. It's going to change up their looks and try to confuse them pre-snap more often.
So Amari Cooper has struggled first 2 weeks, some drops, not many catches. Cooper was asked about his slow start earlier today.
Yeah, just a slow start. Just some bumps in the road in terms of my play, but it's motivated me for sure, and I'll be back.
Did missing OTAs and minicamp have anything to do with this?
I'm not sure. It's a tough question to answer because it was my first time actually missing OTAs and mini camp. So I guess you could say that if you want.
Has it been frustrating these first 2 weeks for you?
Of course, you want to go out there and play your best brand of football individually as early as possible. So definitely been frustrating, but hey, it is what it is. You got to go out there and just play your game, get back focused, lock back in, and that's what I'm looking to do. Just gotta play better. I don't look at the inch there. Yeah, it does play a factor sometimes, but just me knowing just got to go out there and play my brand of football, play up to my standards. So I haven't been doing that for the past couple of weeks, but like I said, I've been motivated. So it's time to get going. So yeah.
Quincy also said the trade rumors were not anything that was getting in his head at all. When do you think Cooper gets right? Do you think he gets right soon?
It's sooner than later. He'll be fine. Cooper also has bad games a couple of times a year, every year. Remember how bad he was when DTR got in there? And we kind of just was like, oh, it's just he's playing bad because of DTR. But he dropped a lot of passes for DTR in 2022. He had that bad stretch. I think the second and third game for Deshaun Watson, right before that Commanders game where he had 4 touchdowns. Coop has these times where he just doesn't play well. It seems like in his head, he might be thinking about it being OTAs, because usually when you don't think it's OTAs, you definitely say it wasn't OTAs, and he definitely didn't rule it out that it could have been OTAs. And he did make a point there about he's never missed OTAs or minicamp, and never he's never practiced less in the startup to a season than he has this year because of injuries and contract situations. And I think that might have messed up his internal flow of things, and maybe he just needs to get back on track. But Coop's a professional. He's going to figure it out. And I expect him to look like Amari Cooper sooner than later.
So here's some news from who practiced, who didn't practice. We mentioned DeJuan Jones, banged up knee, did return to practice today. So did Jamari Thrash. Myles Garrett working through a foot injury, didn't. David Njoku, no surprise there. Pierre Strong, hamstring, didn't. Dalvin Tomlinson did not as well. Sometimes Tomlinson gets rest. Of all of those, you hope Garrett can go. That's everybody else you kind of expected. You hope Garrett can go, and you hope that Denzel Ward's snap count isn't going to be down in the 11s or 12s.
Yeah, it's interesting that it seems like that injury happened during practice or during week 1. I don't know which one. They haven't been clear on that. So you would imagine if his snap count was 11 last week, it'll go up if there's been no setbacks, and it doesn't seem like there's been any setbacks with Denzel Ward. And then with Myles Garrett, we've been through this before. Myles Garrett has been on the injury report for crazy things over the last few years and still found a way to play. So with Myles, I'm pretty much with he's active until he does not play a game, because it's the last time he missed a game because of injury. I think he flipped his car over.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be out there.
All right. Also some news off the field. Michael Hall Jr. Pleaded no contest to a disorderly conduct charge. So the NFL did make a statement in wake of pleading no contest, have been closely monitoring all developments in the matter, will remain under review of the personal conduct policy. There's no change in his status. It's kind of interesting because before it was the commissioner's exempt list, so now it's the personal conduct policy. Bottom line is they'll make a decision and then Michael Hall have to, deal with it, and hopefully that gets behind him and get on the field. I think he can help. I really do.
Yeah, you just hope he's handling this situation as a professional, right? Staying in shape, getting ready, being anticipating that he could come back any minute now. It's really all you can hope here. It's an unfortunate situation for your second-round pick to be in. But, yeah, if you just want him to get past this and hopefully never have an issue like this pop up again.
All right. Before we go to break, take a look. Browns tweet this out. So we knew Phil Dawson was entering the Ring of Honor, and Jim Donovan, who just recently retired, health concerns, will also join Dawson in the Ring of Honor. So congratulations to both Jim Donovan and Phil Dawson. How many kickers do you think are in the Ring of Honor for a NFL team? Not many.
How many teams have two?
Yeah.
That's we got Luke Rosa in there too, right?
Well, Luke Rosa played tackle too, so yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. Quincy Carey,
the Groza Award is not the tackle, right? Like,
very fair, very fair. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason when we return. Sports4CLE, will be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each. 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, guys, I was just thinking, with the lack of downfield passes in the Browns offense, why shouldn't we give Amari Thrash a chance to play? I don't know if he's taken that many snaps these last 2 games, but he's active and everything, and he's pretty dynamic, so maybe he should be given a shot, and especially with David Bell going down. Amari has a good set of hands on him as well. I think playing him would be a good opportunity to get some guys out in space or go downfield. Let me know what you think. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, I'm certainly not opposed to it. You know, there's been debates going on, and Deshaun Watson was asked about it. Teams are playing 2 high safeties and kind of forcing passing offenses to go underneath.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're switching it up, right? I mean, this is old school football. If you want to open up the pass game and throw the ball deep, you got to force teams to not keep safeties over top. It's interesting now we give it a label in 2 high safety, and now it's become like this new mutation that's never existed before. But this is simple football 101, right? Where it's like, hey, man, if you want to get them out of those looks, you got to. And again, we talked about this with the PFF grades. The teams that are able to throw the ball and get the highest PFF grades from their quarterbacks are the teams that are also able to run the ball. It's just we've been so far into this era where you could just throw the ball deep no matter how garbage your run game is, that there was no consequence for it, that we actually think that that's how football should be played. But now, it's getting back to normal. If you want to throw the ball deep, you got to be able to run the ball well. So that's something that the Browns can do and hopefully will do more often this year so they can avoid being locked into those 2 high safety conversations. But yeah, I think that Amari Thrash should get some playing time here with David Bell out. Like, I would most certainly prefer him to get some touches over like Kadarius Toney or something like that. Like, I think I would prefer that because I like what not David Bell, but Amari Thrash was able to do in the preseason. The question is, can he block, right? I think they need some receivers on the field that can block right now. That's been a bit of an issue when it comes to getting more out that run game. But yeah, I think Jamari Thrash, if he can get out there, block a little bit, because that's going to be the most important thing he's going to be asked to do. He's only going to get like 2 targets. But, I think that'd be something there to look into. But remember, this is kind of how football was always played before we just started calling it too high safety, right? Pat Mahomes came in there and threw for 5,000 yards 3 times, and then it broke our brains, and we thought that's how it's supposed to be. But these numbers that we're seeing, they're only odd because we lived through some of the most strange years of passing production increases that we've ever lived under, and we finally adjusted back to them, and now it's not as easy to throw the ball deeply, so you got to do some of the old school stuff like establish the run in order to get teams out these too high safety looks.
Yeah, it happens. It's all cyclical. I know you've addressed this. Does it look to you like the Browns can run the football again, and how?
Yeah, like just watching the Jacksonville game, it never felt that easy to get 3 yards last year. Like, other than like when Nick Chubb was out there, and even when Nick Chubb was out there, you felt like he was working. I know a lot of talk has been had about losing Bill Callahan, right? And a lot of people are blaming the holding calls at the end of the game on the offensive line coach. But if you actually look at the stuff that the offensive line coach is responsible for and the run game coordinator is responsible for, Andy Dickerson, who they hired to replace Bill Callahan, I'm thoroughly impressed with some of the run game stuff we've seen here, right? They've been able to move the ball well. The quarterback sneak stuff that we saw, that's Andy Dickerson as well. Like, I think the Browns run game can be pretty healthy here with Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford as the 1-2 punch while you wait for Nick Chubb. And then if you got a good 1-2 punch with Deontay Foreman and Nick Chubb, with Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford, adding Nick Chubb isn't going to hurt things either, because you could think you could just run Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford off of each other because they contrast so well. And then you have a well-rested Deontay Foreman in like the 4th quarter to just give him one where you just go up the middle all game and just kind of go through their chest.
Yeah, and you know what? The offensive line would love that. What do you think about the offense as you look ahead to week 3? What are your thoughts? Again, I know this from your video. You did this as well on your show.
Yeah, I'm happy they're 1-1, right? I think we're all happy the Browns are 1-1. But we're not necessarily happy with how they've had to win these games to get to 1-1. Look, the Browns have had to win games, not very different from how the Pittsburgh Steelers have had to win games. And we know the Steelers offense stinks. And the Browns offense shouldn't stink, right? They should be a better offense than that. So you want to see them start to put up more points, execute. Last week, they were in the passing game right at 0 on expected points, which meant that they took everything that was there that Jacksonville offered them to take, which is fine. And they won you the game. But you want to start being able to create some explosives. I think Amari Cooper not playing well has really hurt this team's and this offense's ability to get up and down field, because he's somebody they primarily rely on to create those explosives, especially when David Njoku is out. And with David Njoku out, it's going to be even more prevalent that Amari Cooper steps up, because he's the main guy they're looking at, right? Jerry Jeudy created some explosives in that game, but really we need that explosive output from Amari Cooper to get downfield and to open things up and to get defenses into different looks. And I think that's going to be the main part. You got to score more, and I think you're going to score more once you get better performances out of Amari Cooper.
What have you thought of Jerry Jeudy? I thought he's been pretty good. I think he's been really good.
Yeah, I think he's been as advertised, right? A really strong number 2 receiver. He's been able to get open, somebody you can get the ball to in a variety of ways, right? Chunk plays down the field, scramble drill. He's done really good with that. And then just simple timing routes where he gets the ball in his hands and gets to run. He's been pretty good with that too. I'm pretty excited with what we've seen out of Jerry Jeudy. One of the things that was the issue with him in Denver was that he used to take too much time at the top of his routes to really shake off his defender, right? He would do all that extra body language at the top of his route and really like try to force you into something. And in Cleveland this year, at least, he's been much quicker, more decisive with it, and just using his natural quickness to win. I think that's something that he learned this year from the Browns wide receiving core, Amari Cooper, to just stop playing around at the top of that route and just get to where you got to get to. And that's what Jerry Jeudy looks like, a man who's getting where he needs to get to.
Better hands than and there's been a couple contested catches where he's gotten hit and dropped the ball. He's made some really nice catches that have been contested. Hands might be a little bit better than maybe advertised, at least early.
He's an interesting guy, right? Because we tend to think of like can you catch as a universal thing, but there are guys who can catch in different scenarios really well, but can't catch in other ones. Like I think Braylon Edwards is the big example that always comes to my mind. Braylon Edwards could catch an amazing acrobatic pass like nobody's business. But then you throw him a slant where he's supposed to catch it in rhythm, he can't catch it. Right? So some guys catch the ball better in rhythm, some guys catch the ball better out of structure, and some guys catch the ball well in rhythm and in structure, but don't catch it well through contact. And I think that's just what Jerry Jeudy is, right? If you're going to contact him a little bit, he's not going to be the greatest at that. But if you get it to him in structure, if you get it to him out of structure, he can make a play on it as long as he's not asked to kind of fight through contact to do it. So I think he has good hands. It's just you got to know when and where his strengths are as a catcher of the football.
Quincy, Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, Brian Baldinger breaking down some of the Browns' third down defense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Browns defense has been really dominant against Jacksonville on Sunday. Gave up the one really big play. Brian Baldinger, former NFL offensive lineman, breaking down the Browns' third down defense against the Jaguars.
No team is better on third downs right now than the Cleveland Browns. Their ability, Martin Emerson, Newsome, Ward, to go play man coverage like here. Sticky man coverage. 3rd and 8, all Trevor Lawrence can do is just throw a big strike. Nobody gets open. They're excellent at it. Now you get this. It's 3rd and 5. They give you a blitz zero look. It looks like it's blitz zero across the board, but they're going to junk up the middle, and then they're going to drop into these zones right here. All right, give you a blitz zero look. Now you're getting the zone look right here, and there's this kid, Martin Emerson Jr. He's a hell of a player. He sails it right over, Gabe Davis's head. Jacksonville's frustrated. And then you get this. It's 3rd and 8. They're down 16-3 right here. All right? Now, they rush. They've got a 6-man rush right there, and they're playing man covers behind it. All right? There goes Newsome. All right? And Trevor Lawrence goes down. You watch this play. It's a great call by Jim Schwartz. JOK is going to blitz. All right? That eats up the back to Ernest Johnson. He's got to take him, all right? And so when you take the back out, now you get Myles Garrett one-on-one. And it's closing time. He's a great finisher. It's closing time for Myles Garrett. Game, set, match right there. Ball's out of Trevor's hands. Can't score a touchdown. Cleveland's defense is outrageous. Good luck penetrating this group.
Quincy, you look at it, it's some of the reasons why. The other thing, those are a couple of the change-ups that Jim Schwartz referred to earlier.
And I don't even think they're even close to playing their best football this season yet. Like, I think they're so far away from being their best. This is just what their baseline is, right? Cleveland's defense, it's real. I mean, we saw them do this against Dallas on 3rd down and force a ton of 3-and-outs. The Browns the Browns defense almost got the Browns back into that game versus Dallas in week 1, as bad as that game went for the offense. And this Browns defense won the game for them in week 2 here, as well as the offense was improved as the offense was. It was the defense and special teams that ended up making the plays that ended this game ultimately. So, yeah, I mean, Jim Schwartz deserves a lot of credit. And anybody worried about if this defense can carry over their success from year 1 to year 2, the signs are great here because, again, they're playing as sloppy as I think they're going to play all year as long as they're healthy. And I think once they start shoring up and getting used to running some of these new wrinkles that they added in here, with like the addition of Jordan Hicks, who I think is an underrated one. I think he's really added an extra element to this Browns defense because there's one play where Trevor Lawrence tries to scramble in, and that would have been a touchdown last year with our old linebackers. But Jordan Hicks did a great job of mirroring him and getting to him before he can even break the line of scrimmage. That ended up forcing the Jaguars to kick a field goal. Because if we're worried about like one of the Browns' issues last year, we're running quarterbacks. They were able to contain Trevor Lawrence, who's a really good running quarterback. So, yeah, I think this defense, they're not even close to playing their best ball yet, but, man, they're going to be good. They're so talented, and they have such good coaching behind them. They're going to be good.
Well, Jim Schwartz was asked, with the defensive performance on the road in Jacksonville, have the Browns cured those road defensive woes from a season ago?
No, it's still a long way to go, Tom. You don't want to read too much into one game or two games. We did see some positive signs that way, though, which is good. And our red zone defense had a lot to do with coming out with the win in that game. Gave up particularly one play that we shouldn't give up. But some positive things. Getting the win is the most important.
Quincy, the red zone defense kind of jumped out. I was thinking that before Jim Schwartz said it.
Yeah, you want to get better at red zone defense. I think they did a better job this week. The threat wasn't as potent, though, as it was last week with the Cowboys when they were able to get through in the red zone, the two opportunities that they got. So, you want to see some improvement there as the time goes on. But, yeah, I think that's where we talk about the defense can get even better in those areas. I think they could be more dominant in those areas. I think they're going to get more pressure than they've gotten these first 2 weeks by a significant margin. And another thing to keep your eye on, Dalvin Tomlinson is having a much better season than he did last year.
Yeah, without question. They built around him too. Jefferson helps that. Alex Wright, who we're going to talk about now, is really developing. Wright has really stepped things up. Young guy. Playing really well. Since week 15 of last year, so it's the last 6 games, 11 pressures, 5 sacks, which leads the team, 6 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles, 17 combined tackles. He had the safety. He had just 1 sack in his first 29 games before this stretch. Jim Schwartz talked about what he's seen from his young defensive lineman.
I mean, he's been really productive over the last part of last year and then starting this year, and he's being rewarded with more opportunities. That's a big thing. But, I think, he started last year injured, had a little hard time, sort of getting his footing and going. But, he's played good, consistent, and physical football for us. I think that's been probably the biggest thing. He brings a physical element to us, not just pass game, but also the run game. He had one bad snap in this last game, let a run get outside of him, but also made possibly the game-winning play. So he's still a young player. He's still working on consistency, but you play well, you produce, you get opportunities to do more.
The other thing is that sack, they kicked him inside, and I think that's kind of what Jim Schwartz was saying. He's physical enough and versatile enough, kind of like Miles and Za'Darius. Okay, we can put him inside, and then you got him, Smith, and Miles.
Yeah, developing players, especially 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round picks, is a long game because those are guys that you're drafting to fill specialized roles and do specialized things, right? It's easy to draft a superstar in the top 10 who could do everything, right? There's no system you got to put Myles Garrett in for Myles Garrett to be successful. He is the system. And I think what we're seeing here is long-term planning of Alex Wright, preparing him to be in a certain role. And now he's in a defense where he can fulfill that role well, where he's not just kind of pitch and hold into being kind of an edge guy or being a 3-tech when he's not. He can be this kind of hybrid position and play off of certain elements here. And now you're getting the best out of him. This is how development works. This is how development usually works with 3rd round picks. You have them play these specialized roles, and this is just what continuity gives you because it doesn't have to happen in year 1. It can happen in year 3 with the player, and that's what's going on with Alex Wright.
So who's jumped out to you? Who do you think's kind of stepped up and is taking that next step or is in the process of taking the next step for that defensive unit.
JOK. I mean, he looks like he did against the Houston game. Every week we see him to the point to where we don't even point it out anymore. But JOK looks spectacular out there. He's got that Guardian cap on, and I don't know, Dave. I feel like they've unlocked something with that. He's talking about how it makes him feel more free to knock around, and he don't feel these hits anymore. And I feel like it's dangerous for the other team when JOK is running around that freely. So maybe Guardian Cap JOK might be a whole nother level of menace than he already was, but he seems super confident in what he's being asked to do. He's held up well in coverage. He has a good and athletic playmate back there with Jordan Hicks, and then he's really on point with when his instincts tell him to go crash a gap. So I think JOK has really been the one that's like, hey, you're looking at him and you're thinking he might be in the conversations for one of the better linebackers in the NFL, because play to play, I would argue there's not a lot of linebackers who make as many impact plays at the line of scrimmage that JOK does right now.
Yeah, and I would agree, JOK, and I think Delpit is kind of in that he's playing an awful lot in the in that offensive backfield as well. So I would agree with you. I think those two guys that are coming, and they've already got a lot of guys that can make plays, so that defense, as we've said, is loaded. Quincy, Carey, and I can step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. Interesting reaction from Andrew Hawkins, kind of drawn a parallel to the struggles the Philadelphia Eagles are going through right now. We'll have that when we come back on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carey from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. So, Philadelphia Eagles, a lost game they probably should have won. There was some back and forth with a little bit of finger pointing going on as the reasons for the loss. Former Browns wide receiver Andrew Hawkins on ESPN's Get Up on how the Eagles situation as it relates to the teams he played for with the Browns.
Some of the symptoms that are mounting up. You have players not trusting your strategy. You have what felt like being forced to get rid of your OC in DC. Now the most egregious one to me is you start finger pointing post-game about what happened. Oh, well, that's not really me, because now you're trying to position yourself to say, I need a case to be made for why I keep my job or somebody else loses theirs. And players, organization, everybody in the building starts to feel that, and that's what it reeks of.
I feel like you have not fully solidified your expertise in these circumstances. I'm not sure that everybody knows that you played for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I played for the Cleveland Browns, but Myles Garrett, you don't get a Myles Garrett unless you have an Andrew Hawkins. You understand what I'm saying? So I played.
You're welcome, Cleveland. This man sacrificed for you.
You know, that put the position that the organization is in now. But yeah, Mike Pettin, there were times when Mike Pettin, Ray Farmer, I mean, you know, we had a constant turnover.
Yeah.
And it felt very like a lot of turmoil within the building, and it was predicated simply off of that, where it was, well, whose fault is this?
So, Quincy, the reason I play that is when people get upset about not hearing things from, you know, Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Berry, and they're not holding this accountable, what they're not doing is they're not airing it in public, they're not finger pointing, they're being a good organization. But that might be the line of the year for Cleveland Browns fans. You don't get a Myles Garrett without an Andrew Hawkins, who was a great guy, by the way.
Look, he's being kind there, but Andrew Hawkins was not the reason
No.
we got him. It was who was throwing the ball to Andrew Hawkins
Yes.
that put us in the position, and then who was calling the plays for that quarterback that was throwing the ball. I think that had bigger implications on why the Browns look like that. But most certainly, right, when you look at a situation like Philly, even a situation like Jacksonville, right, like I thought that was a great example, Dave, that the Browns just have the better coaching staff than a team, and they're just going to win this game off of being better coached. Jacksonville in that game used 3 timeouts in the first half of that game, all of them because they couldn't get a play call in. And Dave, that game was in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't that the crowd was too loud and you couldn't get the play call in. This was some kind of strife going on the sideline between the head coach and the play caller and why a play call can't get in. The Browns are functional, right? The Browns are a well-coached team. They're a functional team, and they're going to get that stuff correct. That's just kind of why the AFC North continues to be the powerhouse that it is as far as divisions go, because you look all up and down it, and you have that kind of consistency and that kind of competency amongst all 4 teams. And, yeah, the Browns are well-coached. They're not going to bring things out in public. I promise you, during those film sessions, the things that we see that we're complaining about, they're bringing up and holding guys accountable for too. But the thing that makes them a good organization is that it stays there. It doesn't get to this personal thing where somebody's leaking it out to beat reporters and all of that. We use the term accountability about head coaches, and I often wonder, what does that even mean to people, Dave, right? Whenever you hear somebody say they want Kevin held accountable, and oftentimes when people say that, they just mean fired, right? The Browns, they ran well. You could just tell when you contrast them to other situations where it's like, yeah, the Browns had their issues coming off of week 1, but look how they bounced back, right? They looked a lot better in week 2. That's a team that's well coached. The Philadelphia Eagles, they've had those issues for a very long time, Dave. And it's looked like that since like week 8 of last season under Nick Sirianni. They've changed the coordinators out. It's been the same thing. Now they're having the same exact issues. And that's the hallmark of a team that, has some issues there at coach.
All right. Some news coming out regarding the Browns roster moves right now. They have waived rookie Nathaniel Watson. And given the timing of it, I get this. It's probably shuffling ahead of Sunday's game, hope of adding Bookie Watson back to the practice squad on Saturday if he clears waivers. But you can be sure it's relative to that offensive line. They're shuffling to figure that out. And again, Watson's a guy that can certainly play. So hopefully they get him back on the practice squad.
Yeah, and also I think with Pierre Strong, with the hamstring injury, they did bring a running back in, so maybe that might be the reason that they're shuffling things around there. I'm surprised that they would let go of Bookie Watson before they would just like straight up release Pierre Strong or something like that. But, we'll see what the reasoning for this move was. But it is a little surprising to see them cut a draft pick and hope he gets back on the practice squad. But also, we talked about it, this roster's full, and you're just going to start seeing things like this when the roster's is full.
Yep. Yeah, Royce Freeman was the running back that they signed yesterday, so we'll see. This is from Dogs by Nature. Forecast for the Browns offense in Week 3 against the Giants. Number 1, clean up the operation. Reduce the number of penalties. Browns have the most penalties in the NFL. Watson to build on last week's performance. 3, Conklin and/or Wills to get some live reps at tackle and get Amari Cooper back on track. The 2 of those that I am most concerned about are you got to get rid of the penalties. They have 24 penalties. It's 5 more than the Steelers, who are in second with 19. And Cooper. For this offense to be effective, Amari Cooper's got to play like Amari Cooper. Doesn't have to do anything other than what Amari Cooper's done here the past couple of years.
Yeah, and the penalties are interesting, right? Because if you look at the most penalized teams in the NFL, it's Pittsburgh, it's Baltimore, and it's Cleveland. 3 teams that you would not associate with bad coaching, which is usually what you associate with a high penalty number with. I think this has a lot to do with the illegal shift stuff that they're doing, right? These teams like to get a little creative with what they do offensively, and the league is just randomly throwing these illegal procedure penalties, and I don't know what the rhyme or reason or the emphasis of it is for. So I think that's part of why the penalty numbers have been so high. But you do want to reduce the holding calls, like the stuff like the personal foul stuff where Deontay Foreman gets a face mask. That's not stuff you worry about being replicated, right? The only thing that you're worried about being replicatable is like the holding penalties at the end of the game. I feel like that had a lot to do with just that Florida humidity getting to some of the older guys on the offensive line, and they started holding on, and the refs decided to call it. So I hope the penalties don't show itself in week 3, but I don't anticipate that the penalties will show itself at that high of a level in week 3. I think the Browns will be able to shore some things up. Now, as far as the legal procedure stuff, I don't know. The motion stuff, it's getting weird with what the NFL decides to call, not call. I hope they sent out a memo and got these teams on track here because it's been happening league-wide. But yeah, that's the one thing you want to see get improved here. Also, we talked about it with Watson. It was a step in the right direction, his week 2 performance. But just because you take one step in the right direction, Dave, don't mean you quit walking. Got to keep walking, right? Got to keep moving. A lot of times we say that's a step in the right direction. And a lot of people go, okay, cool, I'm good. And they stop moving. No, you got to keep walking, keep making strides in the right direction for that one step in the right direction to mean anything. And if you're Deshaun Watson, you want to see him get a little bit higher than 5.5 yards per target. You want to see him get that ball downfield just a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive, not too aggressive, right? You're not going to have to do that to win this game, but be a little bit more aggressive. And you want to see Amari Cooper get going. And part of Amari Cooper getting going is getting that ball downfield.
Yeah, I'm with you. The one thing I want to see, too, no turnovers. That was a clean game. And earlier in the week, we had a stat. Kevin Stefanski is 15-2 as the Browns head coach when they do not turn the ball over. It's not winning the battle when they just don't turn it over. They're 15-2 under Kevin Stefanski. Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
Thank you.
Quincy Carrier, make sure you check him out. Always really good Browns coverage, untitled, unfiltered. Make sure you check him out. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, the Barking Browns podcast straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each. 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I sure hope we're not serious about getting Bryce Young. That's a huge mistake. The guy stinks. He's 5'0", 100. We don't need a high school kid playing quarterback in our division. Please make sure that's not true. It's bad enough that we have Watson, but at least he seems to be coming along. But my God, Bryce Young, why do we do this to ourselves? Anyways, I hope that's not true. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, the Barking Browns podcast. Jacob, that was in reference to a voicemail that we had. So the Panthers have come out and said they're not going to trade him. But, yeah, I would pass on that one.
I'm not sure the Panthers could trade him to anybody right now anyway. I mean, when you look at some of the backup quarterback situations, it's just nothing about what Bryce Young has done so far looks redeemable, at least not this year. I'm not sure when you look at what other quarterbacks who have accomplished more and have better physical tools have gone for backup quarterbacks. Like you look at, Zach Wilson, some of those other moves. I'm just not sure there's a market for Bryce Young. I've not really heard anything about the Browns being connected to it. I know that Andrew Berry likes his reclamation projects with first-round picks. Maybe they bring him in the next summer or something like that if he gets cut, but I don't see that being any real possibility for Cleveland this year.
I would agree. So this is from CBSSports.com, ranking 5 underwhelming quarterbacks and their likelihood of bouncing back. Number 1, they have Dak Prescott. 2, Jared Goff. 3, Jalen Hurts. 4, they have Deshaun Watson. Likelihood of bouncing back, they say minimal. Appears he's cooked physically and mentally. Of course, at his age, not yet 30, Watson should be in the prime of his quarterbacking career, yet his shoulder, while medically cleared, doesn't appear right, and he's repeatedly opted to run when he's staring at open receivers. They also had Daniel Jones on the list, and likelihood of bouncing back being minimal. Pressures come bad decisions and accurate hurried throws from Jones. I thought Watson looked better. Did he look the way I thought he would look against Jacksonville? Not quite, but if you flipped those games and the Jacksonville, not flipped them, if Jacksonville game was the season opener, I've been like, all right, yeah, we're on the right track. So I'm hoping the Dallas game was an aberration because it was pretty bad. There's no other way to say it. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. You really, you said it perfectly. There's no other way to try to spin that first week. But I will point out that the thing that really troubled me the most against Dallas was how uncomfortable Watson seemed to be in the pocket, how he was bailing clean pockets, creating sacks and pressures. I know his offensive line wasn't great, but he was, amplifying their struggles. And I didn't see as much of that against Jacksonville. I thought the operation looked a little bit cleaner. Obviously, they got to clean up the penalties and things like that. But week 1, I saw Watson dropping his eyes immediately, where once pressure started getting around him, where I didn't see that week 2. I think if you take out some of those drops, he probably throws for 220, 230, doesn't turn the ball over, gets a touchdown, just looked to me just more comfortable. I don't get being completely cooked physically, that the comments there, because I thought his mobility and his ability to kind of navigate the pocket and some chaos and extend plays, I thought looked pretty good last week. I mean, he may not be Houston Deshaun Watson physically right now, but I don't know that he looked completely cooked week 2. I know it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imaginations, but he took a step forward, and now he's going to go home against a defense who's very young, very green in the secondary, and has an opportunity to take another step forward. I'm not ready to start him in fantasy football yet, but I do think that he has a better chance to bounce back than some people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, again, you want to see progression, so I'm with you. It was a lot better in week 2. If there is that marked of improvement in week 3, now we're on to something. And again, let's see them figure out what he does well in this new offense. This is kind of interesting as well. 49% of the plays against Browns defense by Jacksonville went for 0 or negative yardage. So it's almost half of the plays, they either gained nothing or went in reverse. They also had the Browns also kind of dropped what could have been 2 interceptions. So that defense dominated that game. The 66-yard play that led to the touchdown, it's kind of lipstick on that a little bit.
It kind of skews some of the offensive numbers, some of what they allowed, kind of that big explosive play when Brian Thomas just makes a first-round pick wide receiver play. I mean, you see why he was taken where he was taken in that. And the thing I'd like to point out is that was on the road Browns defense didn't do things like that on the road last year. They played so good in the red zone. Like last year, last year the Browns would force you to either punt in 4 or 5 plays, or they'd give up a touchdown, because as soon as you got in the red zone, they were going to let up a score. And I just thought they were phenomenal in those situations and forcing them, with some sacks. The sack that pushed Jacksonville back, they end up missing a field goal, things like that, and some very crucial moments on the road. Just things that we asked them, like, we need to see this happen in these moments on the road, especially, and in the red zone. That's what they need to do under Jim Schwartz in year 2, and they did that last week. And now I like Daniel Jones, I think, more than some people do. He is completing 54% of his passes, and he's not Trevor Lawrence. The Giants have a really good one. Malik Neighbors is really good. After that, there's nothing there. Jacksonville has a lot better weapons. I think probably a slightly better offensive line, and that was on the road. Now you're going home, and just think of what this defense can do with a quarterback. Daniel Jones is at 54% completion in the first 2 games, and he turns the ball over at a ridiculous rate. So, I think that this defense is really starting to roll, really adding some change-ups, and it's going to be very interesting this week.
Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report and the Barking Browns podcast, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll turn our attention more to this matchup against the Giants. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each, 10 times multipliers, 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100, and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns with Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, the Barking Browns podcast. Emmett Golden, crew from ESPN Cleveland, on this Browns-Giants matchup Sunday here at home.
My word to describe the Giants-Browns matchup is trap. That is literally my only concern, is that this team will look and go, we're better than them. And prove it. And that they might even still win. But it'll be harder than it has to.
My word is convincing. We are going to put it on the New York Giants and give them the business and put them out of their misery is what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and what I'm suggesting, more importantly.
I'm cautious. You should own the Giants. You should. They're coming to your house. You're going to have 70,000 fans there screaming their heads off. The defense typically plays well at home. My issue is that little bit too much confidence could go awry.
Jacob, when I would be more worried about it being a trap game or something like that if they didn't come out and play so poorly in week 1. I know it's the 1 week thing, but the message has to be this team should not be as good as you. Make sure they know that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they got embarrassed at home, and last year they were so good at home, defensively, offensively. That was their best. Most of their really good games came in front of the home crowd, and then they got to open the season opener again at home, and they get embarrassed. And I don't know that necessarily that they took Dallas they didn't take him seriously enough or anything like that. I just feel like with Kevin Stefanski, kind of the message he's talked about in the media and what you see from him in the locker room and that, after games and things, I just don't think this is a team that overlooks, I'll put air quotes around bad teams. I think they understand, hey, we should beat you, but that we can't just show up and expect it. But I think after what happened week 1, I do think they really want to get that sour taste out of their mouth, and they really want to give the home crowd something to cheer about. So I understand being cautiously optimistic about this game, but I still would feel pretty good about what's going to happen Sunday.
All right, so we talked about Daniel Jones earlier, and take a look at this. This is hard to believe. 46 fumbles he has in 62 career games. That's 74.1%. You have to work to fumble that hard in the NFL. He's also been sacked 6 times in 2 games, tied for 10th most in the NFL. Jones talks about the Browns' defensive line he's going to face Sunday.
Yeah, they've got a good defense, got good players at all 3 levels, really, and a lot of speed. So we'll have a game plan. I think, obviously the pass rush is something we got to take into account and plan for, and we'll do that. But it's always about us. It's always about, focusing on yourself and making sure you're ready to go.
How much do you need, though, to have a plan with Myles Garrett?
Yeah, he's a good player for sure. He's a good player, has the ability to affect the game from a pass rush standpoint and the run game also. So got to have a plan, a protection plan. Luckily, we got AT. AT's an incredible player, and we're very confident in that matchup.
Does he move around at all, go from side to side, or is he
a little bit? Yeah, he'll move around a little bit, so we'll get a sense for how he's playing.
They'll have a plan, so we'll see. He wasn't selling the plan real hard there, though.
Yeah, I did not hear a ton of confidence in his voice, which I think is probably makes sense because you can have a plan to slow Myles Garrett down. You're not going to have a plan to stop him. I agree with him about Andrew Thomas, though. I mean, he's a fantastic left tackle and has really made some progress, since his rookie year because he kind of struggled out the gate. But I wanted to expand a little bit. Mac talked about all the fumbles. I would add that in 62 career games, Daniel Jones has turned the ball over 66 times total. So he does not do well under pressure. If they do not have a good plan for him and they rattle and get to Daniel Jones early, he will panic. He will throw the ball quickly, and he will take risks he shouldn't take and throw balls into areas that he just shouldn't do it. So the Browns defense has been very, very close to turnovers. And I don't know, some people might consider a safety a turnover. I'm not sure. But outside of that, they haven't gotten any yet. This is a prime example of that opportunity is going to be there. You need to capitalize on it. He will fumble the ball. He will give you those opportunities. Just get that pressure on him early and often, and just make sure you do your job. And if that ball comes out, make sure you jump on it.
All right, 3 bold predictions for the Browns against the Giants. This from Dog Pound Daily. Number 3, Martin Emerson records a pick 6. Number 2, Giants rushing attack is held under 50 yards. And number 1, Amari Cooper goes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. All those certainly possible. If you're going to give me one of those, give me Cooper, just long term. Really like to see the Browns shut down, Singletary's a decent running back. They have a decent, running stable, but I think getting Cooper going would be a key.
Yeah, I think if I'm trying to rank like which one's the most likely, I think it's number 2 in shutting it down. But the one I would like to see the most is definitely Amari Cooper, just because there's all this, narratives get started really quickly and sometimes get out of hand. Like there's, he's struggled the first 2 games, but like he's still getting open. He's still cooking dudes. He's still creating separation. And I would feel really good about him getting that 150 and 2 touchdowns to kind of silence the haters a little bit. And people asking, oh, is he mad at the Browns for, those trade talks and not extending it? Amari Cooper understands the business. I know a ton of other people have talked about that all week long. He understands the business. He's been traded multiple times. He talked about wanting to get paid this offseason. He's not going to go out there and try to sabotage his chance to get a big payday at 30 years old. So that one, I think I feel the best about, but number 2 is probably the one that's more likely for me. And that's just because I think the Browns can move the ball on this Giants defense, and they're going to be able to load the box because they're not going to fear Daniel Jones in the deep ball very much in the passing game. So it'll put them in a really good spot to hold the Giants down with, like you said, they have a decent running back in Devin Singletary, but I'm not too scared about the rest of that group.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Cooper playing well, settles the offense down, and it gives it gives a security blanket, if you will, to Deshaun Watson. Jacob Roach, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, Dave.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. The Orange and Brown Report is also the co-host of the Barking Browns podcast. Before we go, some news from the Guardians. They have clinched a playoff spot, closing in on clinching the American League Central and a potential ability not to have to play in the first round of the playoffs. They're closing in on that. 3-2 win, 10 innings as Andres Jimenez with the RBI single that clinches it. Guardians will be going to the baseball playoffs coming up in a couple of weeks. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.